Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Mardi Gras day. Got Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos fired up. You are here with us. If you got the day off, thanks for checking in with us. If you're out on the route, thanks for checking in with us. If you're punching the time clock like us, thanks for checking in with us. We'll do plenty between now and 3 o'clock. Of course, LSU baseball gets a win yesterday. Well, last night at the box. LSU news on football coaching front as well. Glen will be with us at 1:30. I want to talk a little bit about post-game press conference last night. It was a little bit late at the box, but heard from Gavin Guidry and Mason Braun. I thought both were excellent in the post-game press conference, not to mention on the field. And I want to talk a little bit about them individually, kind of personally, and what they've gone through in the last couple of years in very different circumstances. One trying to find his way to college baseball, one trying to find his way back onto the field. But really, really good stuff we'll talk about in the second hour. LSU's got a basketball game tonight in Austin, Texas. So plenty to do. Let's get it rolling with our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive. Presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
10-7 the final from the box last night. LSU moves to 4-0, beats Kent State, who was previously unbeaten, having swept Southeastern Louisiana over the weekend. It was an offensive onslaught from LSU early. LSU got 1 in the first, 3 in the second, 3 in the third, 1 in the fourth, 1 in the fifth, 1 in the sixth. They were not retired without scoring a run in their first 6 at-bats of the game, and you saw the long ball really show up early and often. Jake Brown with just a missile out to right center field. Then the young freshman, Mason Braun, with a 3-run home run just inside the opposite field foul pole. It's a high fly ball that was twisting and curling. I kept looking, going, that ball keeping carrying. It's going to carry. And it snuck around the foul pole for a home run. Brown came back in the third and just hit the trajectory of a 1-iron out of the ballpark to center field. Just a ridiculous display of raw power on that swing for Jake Brown. But it wasn't just the home runs that LSU was able to create. You saw a bunt single from LSU. You saw Zach York move up 90 feet on a dirt ball, which got the crowd into a frenzy. I tweeted this out. I've heard celebrations for home runs with less enthusiasm than I heard for Zach York taking an extra 90 feet on a ball in the dirt, but he was able to score on a Trent Caraway single. Cade Arambidi had a big 2-out RBI single back through the middle of the baseball field. You saw Derek Curiel advance from third base home on a ball that didn't get too far behind the catcher. Just a lot of really good stuff offensively for LSU. Seth Dardar drew 3 walks in the game. It was just kind of a complete effort offensively with all the things that you want to see. Sometimes you're limited in this part of the calendar based on ridiculous wind conditions, bitter cold, and it's just sometimes hard to get the entire offense into a rhythm. We're lucky right now. We've got really warm conditions, and LSU is using those, and they're playing really good offensively. And I really liked what I saw. I know it's Kent State's midweek pitching. Got it. Understood. However, scoring a run in your first 6 at-bats, driving the ball out of the ballpark, using the whole field, advancing on opportunities when you got a base runner to move forward, scoring with 2 outs on RBI singles through drawn in infields. This is just the stuff you want to see. It doesn't always translate right into the SEC, but I'd certainly like it to the alternative. I'd like it as opposed to not doing it right now and then trying to do it in the SEC. So I thought the LSU offense was excellent for 6 innings. Didn't get it done in the 7th or the 8th, but you had a 10 spot on the board, and that was able to stand up. I said this on yesterday's show. I could be proven wrong. I will leave that door wide open. But this is just what my eye tells me, and that's all I've got for you here, is my eye tells me Milwaukee's decent. My eye tells me Kent State's pretty good. I think Kent State's offense is pretty good. We'll see. They're in Knoxville to play Tennessee in a 3-game set this weekend. I'm curious to see how that goes. I think Tennessee will win all 3 games. I think Kent State will hit. I think they hit in Hammond. They hit last night, and I think they will hit in Knoxville. The home run that Sawyer Solitaria hit. Now, we mentioned him on the show yesterday. This guy hit 3 home runs over the weekend. He got 8 hits. He reached base 10 times. He had a nice freshman season. He's a sophomore. He's huge. The home run he hit yesterday, if you missed this, dude, he hit it, and it was one of those, it doesn't happen all the time at the box, but he hit it, and it was a no-doubter immediately. And then it's like, okay, well, when's it going to land? And it banged off 3/4 of the way up the scoreboard on the left side where the advertisements run. I couldn't tell if it hit Hancock Whitney or FMOL Health, but those are the top 2 on the left side, and it crashed in 3/4 of the way up. I went into the radio booth because they got TrackMan in there. Doug Thompson said, I tweeted this out because it's just an astronomical number for a college baseball hitter, especially in February, to get to. 439 feet on that home run. 439. Titanic blast. And then, big 3-run double swing and a 4-run inning for those guys off of Grant Fontenot in the late innings. I thought they swung the bats okay. LSU did hang 7 zeros, and there was some really good stuff from LSU's pitching staff. Newt wasn't great. The 3 walks in 3 innings were not great. But I thought Plog was okay. He did issue another walk, but he had 2 strikeouts, hit a guy, but he's going to throw more strikes. He's missing bats for sure. Devin Sheeran, we're going to have to talk about, because Devin Sheeran on Sunday and Monday combined in back-to-back outings faced 4 hitters and struck them all out. He's throwing 98, 99 this early in the season. When the weather gets to be 97 and he's all lathered up, he's going to be hitting 100, 101, and it's very similar to the frame and the velocity level and really the heaviness of the ball that Chase Shores threw last year. He's not 6'8", but he's got a similar profile, and he's striking everybody out. He was also out there for a strike him out, throw him out, so he got credit for an inning of work when he only faced 2 hitters. Maverick Rizzi, I thought, was throwing the ball hard, had a good breaking ball. He threw an inning of scoreless baseball. Primo and Fontenot were not good. Fontenot got hit hard. Primo put a guy on base via the walk and hit a guy. But then you went to Gavin Guidry. And I'm going to talk about Gavin Guidry in the second hour based on his journey. But just for what we've seen now in 2 outings, which was Friday and Monday, he looks like as good a reliever as LSU has. He went out there in the situation in the 7th inning last night, and he missed high with the breaking ball to his arm side. It didn't break, and it stayed up high, and Aaron Beatty couldn't quite catch it. And then in the 8th, he spiked a breaking ball, meaning he got too much break on it, and it hit in the left-handed batter's box. And I was sitting in the press box, and I was going, he doesn't have feel for his breaking ball. And if he doesn't have a feel for his breaking ball, he's leaving one high and into the right-hander and one snapped way too hard, low and away to the right-hander. Like, he doesn't have a feel for that. And if he doesn't have a feel for the slider, he's got no chance. And then we talked about it after the game, but he threw a good one. And then he threw good ones the rest of the way. It's like at one point it clicked, and then he had it, and they had no shot. 5 strikeouts, no hits, no walks in 2 1/3. Dominant. 24 strikes in 33 pitches. Got a ground out, got a fly out, got the 5 punch outs. That's it. And he was throwing 91, 92, 93. He had the 2 different breaking balls going. He can throw a changeup. And then he had the presence about him that I just like at the back end of games. I just like my closer to have a little bit of moxie to him. And he absolutely does. And he was fantastic in the game last night. Now, I asked him about missing with those early couple of breaking balls. He said, well, I actually didn't think I was going to go into the game as quickly as I did. The way Fontenot has thrown the ball in the fall and in the preseason, you kind of felt like Fontenot was going to finish the 7th inning. And he didn't. He gave up the big triple, and then he gave up another hit. And they had to go get Guidry, and he was not quite ready to enter the game. His body was ready to where he wasn't going to get hurt, but he hadn't worked on his breaking ball enough in the bullpen. He had loosened up, he had thrown, but he was only on the fastball portion of his warm-up, and then it was time to go. So he got out there and spun a couple in the warm-ups on the game mound, but he wasn't really ready to let the hammer go. And the first couple were not good, but he found it, and it was there. And I prefer my closer to throw 100 if we're just going to take preferences here. I prefer that, but that's a devastating pair of breaking balls that he has. It's a fearless pedigree on the mound that we know he has, and the results speak for themselves. I mean, if you're looking at Gavin Guidry through 2 outings in this young season where, who knows what he's got because he hadn't pitched in a very long time, statistically, he really can't do any better than what he's done. I mentioned last night with the 2 1/3 innings, 5 strikeouts, not putting anybody on base, be the free pass, starting guys with strikes, just everything you're looking for guys coming out of the bullpen, including that moxie. But just looking at it on paper, statistically, he has just been dominant. And again, we all understand where we are here. We all understand it's Milwaukee and Kent State. Nobody's trying to spring or make any more significance out of it than what it is. We know that LSU starts with these type of games and these type of teams every single year. But Guidry has 10 strikeouts and no walks in 4 1/3 innings. He's given up 1 hit, a double. So the batting average against is .71. The sample size is razor small. It's 4 1/3 innings. 10 strikeouts, no walks is significant. And when you pair that with what I've seen him do in preseason, he's got it figured out. And he's right now put himself right at the top of the guys that you're going to have in the game when it's crunch time. So for me, nice effort by LSU in this game. Really good offense for the first 6 innings. Versatile throughout the lineup. I mean, you had 2 guys in your starting lineup that did not score a run, and both drove in a run. Aaron Beatty did, as well as Caraway. So you were good 1 through 9. You showed some power. You showed some discipline. You showed some two-strike hitting. You showed some opposite field hitting. You ran the bases. And then I thought there were some really good things on the mound. You got some guys that aren't throwing it as well. Plog's got to throw more strikes for sure. Fontenot wasn't great last night. Primo was not great last night. And Newt was not great last night. But it's early. You got to get those guys on the mound and get them throwing the baseball, and we'll sort this whole thing out. You got another game coming up tomorrow against Nichols. Then you go to Jacksonville, and you got 3 games Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you get this thing off and rolling. I feel like there is a chance that Louisiana Lafayette is next week in the midweek. Let me check that. Nope, McNeese is next week in the midweek. You'll have McNeese. Then you've got a Dartmouth Northeastern wraparound weekend, and then you'll go to Lafayette the following week. So the last midweek before the last non-conference weekend, which is Sacramento State, you'll go on the road and play UL Lafayette. But on the road to a neutral site this week in Jacksonville. Incidentally, we'll have the president of Peak Events on tomorrow to talk about all the streaming situations and everything that's going into that. But we're off and running now. Got the first 4 games in the rearview mirror. Off day today for the guys, and they'll get back at it tomorrow against the Nichols team that went up to Knoxville and got swept over the weekend. They play tonight, incidentally, in Thibodaux before they come to Baton Rouge tomorrow for an afternoon 1 o'clock start time. Which, if we're just being honest, I don't love the 1 o'clock start time for my 1 o'clock radio show, but it is what it is. Jay's not consulting me. I think they got to catch a plane to Jacksonville, so that's the way it's going to be. Let's look at LSU baseball. We'll catch more of that with Glen West coming up in 15 minutes. When we come back, LSU football. There was going to be a shakeup on the staff. Not going to be a shakeup on the staff. What does that mean? We'll talk about it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
First American Bank and Trust. First American Bank and Trust started up in 1910. 1910. 116 years later, they're still right here. In fact, they're bigger and better than ever. 25 locations throughout Southeast Louisiana. That means there's always one near you if this is home for you. It's home for First American Bank and Trust. Every single decision that they make, it's your commercial loan, your personal loan for your home. Every decision they make is made locally in Southeast Louisiana. You call them up, you're getting somebody in Southeast Louisiana, not a call center trying to find you on a line. It's somebody that goes to church with you, somebody whose kids play on your kids' baseball team. That's who you get at First American Bank and Trust. They've built our trust over the course of, 11 decades. And they're big enough to help you with whatever it is you need from a commercial loan perspective. And a personal loan perspective with that community feel you know and love. It's First American Bank and Trust. First American Bank and Trust.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Yesterday, I sat down to put together the show, and I was like, okay, well, we had a whole baseball weekend that we wanted to get to. Got that done, and we had a baseball game coming up that evening. I wanted to get to that. Then you had the announcement that had happened at 9 o'clock with the jersey patches. LSU's women's basketball team played a monster game on Saturday against South Carolina, and then you also had Southeastern Conference baseball, and I just – this happens every once in a while. Not a lot, I don't think, but it does happen every once in a while. There was a story that I just forgot to get to. And it wasn't as if it was because I didn't think it was a big deal. There was a lot of stuff that was more recent and more fresh. And this news broke Friday evening, which, as you know, is the worst time to break news if you want it to stay in the news cycle. And I just forgot. And then yesterday, it flipped. So we can address it again. On3 reported on Friday that LSU's safeties coach, Jake Olsen, was the prime candidate and expected to take the safeties coach job with the Washington Commanders in the NFL. And so we published that at LouisianaSports.net, and I just kind of got swallowed up in baseball and Mardi Gras and the whole deal. I left it on Friday. I completely forgot about it. And then I'm at the box yesterday, and LSU's playing Kent State, and On3 reports, oh, by the way, Olsen not going to the Commanders, staying in Baton Rouge. Okay, we wrote that back up, and now let's address that. Jake Olsen came to LSU with Blake Baker after the 2023 season, when LSU had such a terrible, terrible defense. They cleaned house with Matt House and went and got Blake Baker from Missouri. And Blake Baker took two coaches with him from Missouri. Take Jake Olsen with the safeties, Kevin Peakles with the edge rushers. He wanted those two guys as part of his defensive staff. And he still got them as we sit here through a different head coaching staff at LSU. And that tells you that obviously Blake Baker prioritizes Jake Olsen. I've had limited interactions with Jake Olsen. I have interviewed him for the pregame show twice. That's been the extent of my interactions. That is a total of probably 9 minutes over two interactions total. So for me to sit here and say I've got a great read on what kind of coach he is, what kind of guy he is, that whole deal would be reaching. But I'm putting my card. This is my interaction with Jake Olsen, about 9-10 minutes. I don't find him to be a dynamic personality to interview in that setting. A lot of the assistants aren't, like Blake Baker is. But he's very thoughtful. And my sense in speaking with people inside the program about him is that he's just very meticulous, not necessarily the most rah-rah guy, but takes care of his business. And that's what Blake Baker prioritizes in him. Now, I can go to Pro Football Focus Analytics, and I can tell you that A.J. Halsey graded out great. I can tell you that Deshaun Spears was as good a player as LSU had in terms of those grades in a smaller sample size. I can tell you that Tamarcus Cooley didn't grade out very well on that. I can tell you that Matt Flynn and Jacob Hester watch a ton of LSU football film, and they think Halsey and Cooley were awesome last year. And I can look at numbers. I can look at raw numbers. And one of the things safeties are responsible for, and they're not solely responsible for, but one of the things they are partly responsible for is preventing big plays, right? It's the last line of defense. And in 2023, when LSU was as bad a defense as they've ever fielded, and Blake Baker and Jake Olsen were at Missouri, LSU was 111th in the country. That's bad, obviously, in 30-plus yard plays allowed. They allowed 33 of them that year. 111th in the country. Then Olsen comes in with Baker. And they made a little improvement. They got it to 85th in the country. That was 27 of those big plays of 30-plus yards. Last year, 2025, 2 years into the new system, with Baker, with Olsen at safety, with an overhaul of talent in that room where you moved on from Jordan Gilbert and you moved on from Sage Ryan and you moved on from some of those guys and you went with A.J. Halsey and TaMarcus Cooley and Deshaun Spears, and that was your group. No more Major Burns. And the result was you were 18th in the country in 30-plus yard plays allowed. 17 total. So you went from 111th, giving up 33, to 18th, giving up 17. You cut the number in half. Now, that's not all the safeties, but as I mentioned, there are a few ways I can analyze this. If you want to go just by honors, A.J. Halsey was an All-American by Sporting News. Deshaun Spears, the SEC Defensive Player of the Week against Florida when he had the picks, including the pick 6. LSU's safety play has gotten better since Jake Olsen showed up, since Blake Baker showed up. And what it appears happened here, because On3 is not making stuff up. They're not just reporting, well, I think the Commanders might call Jake Olsen. Let's be first on this. Olsen to the Commanders, boom. They're not making stuff up. They're hearing from agents what's going on, and I would think it's a reasonable assumption to suggest that Jake Olsen was very high on the Commanders list, and they probably offered him the job. And I think it's reasonable to suggest that Jake Olsen probably thought he was going to take that job with the Commanders at some point over this weekend, whether that was Friday at lunch, Friday evening, Saturday morning. I think it was reasonable to suggest he was going to do that. And then what I think is also reasonable is that Blake Baker and Lane Kiffin got on the phone and said, no, what do you need? And I think they came through with it. Another example, and I'm speculating here, but I think my feet are on the ground here with speculation. I don't think I've got some kind of wild conspiracy theory going here. I think I'm pretty grounded in what I'm suggesting here, that LSU has had opportunities since Lane Kiffin took over to have coaches leave for more money or a different chance. And they told Charlie Weiss, sit right back down. Here's $500,000 a year extra. You're an offensive coordinator. You're not going anywhere. And I think they probably did something not that drastic, but similar with Jake Olsen. And I've been talking about this for the better part of 2 months. The continuity on the defensive side of the ball, I think, is a very big positive for LSU, for this program, because you have so much of people on the offensive side. Having the defensive side a little bit settled, especially considering that's the sign that Lane Kiffin needs someone else to take the reins of, is a huge positive in year one. How long you get that? Probably 2 years. Hopefully 2 years. Hopefully not 1 year. But if it's 1 year, hopefully it's a great year, and that's why it happens. But you're never going to have 10 years of stability on one side of the ball. But if you can get a couple, that's a good thing. And they've kept Blake Baker around, and they've kept Kevin Peoples around, and they've kept Corey Raymond around, and now they kept Jake Olsen around. And you're starting to build a little bit of continuity on the defensive side. And those numbers are encouraging, as I point them out. And the safety play has been better. And Blake Baker, we believe, is a really good coach. And this guy speaks his language and has been under him now for better than 3 years. So I think this is a very, very good thing for LSU. I'm not here to overreact to it or to suggest that this is a significantly expectation-altering decision that's been made. I'm just here to tell you I think it's good for LSU. I think it would have been a bummer to lose a coach at this point in the cycle. You obviously don't have signing day, and you've still got better than a month until spring ball starts. So they would have been able to fill this spot before spring ball even started. But filling it with the guy who has done it the last couple of years and has a relationship with Spears and has a relationship with Cooley and is bringing in Ty Benefield, I think their safety position is strong. I think it's under good leadership. And I think the play on the field has suggested that. I'd like to have A.J. Halsey come back, but you don't get to do that. So Jake Olsen flirts with Washington. Probably at some point thought he was taking that job. LSU came in and said, no, no, no. And that's just another example of when LSU needs to find the resources, LSU has generally found the resources. It's not to say it's going to happen every single time, but it feels like it did in this case, and I think that's a positive thing for LSU's defense. Jake Olsen, second safeties coach, headed back to Baton Rouge for a third season under Blake Baker with the Tigers. All right, we're going to talk to Glen West about some Tigers when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Nothing bums you out quite like the power going out. whether it's expected or unexpected, it's just unacceptable. Sometimes we're at home in the summer months and those storms blow through that are just those afternoon heavy thunder showers, and you lose power for like 3 hours. It's just a drag. You can't get any work done. The house heats up to 95 degrees. Do what you can to prevent that and get Boudreaux's Electrical to install that Generac home standby generator soon. Get them to do it because you know the next storm season is around the corner as well. The last thing you want to do, even if you have to evacuate for a storm, is come back to a 98-degree house that's fridge is ruined and that's completely uncomfortable while you pick up the pieces. Get that home Generac standby generator from a local company at Boudreaux's Electrical. Neil and Melissa have been doing this for 40 years. Let them do that for you. Call them at 985-397-1562. Again, 985-397-1562. That's the number they've had forever and ever down there in the 985. But also a Gonzales location, 225-393-89. They're trusted electricians serving South Louisiana. They're happy to service you next. It's Boudreaux's Electrical. You can find them online at boudreauxelectrical.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
A lot of LSU baseball to get to in hour number 2. I want to talk about Gavin Guidry, and I want to talk a little bit about Mason Braun as well. I had a chance to visit with those two guys for an extended period last night after LSU beat Kent State. So we'll do that in hour number 2. A guy that was in the room for all of that, Glen West, senior writer over Go 24/7. Give us a little time here on this Mardi Gras day. Glen, how are you?
Doing great, Hunt. How about yourself?
Doing just fine. If you had 3 outs to get, and you could take any pitcher on this LSU staff, all the way through the staff, starters, relievers, after watching a weekend of games, who would you ask to get the 3 outs?
I mean, it's hard not to go to Gavin Guidry first, just based off of what we've seen here through 4 games. I would probably be inclined, if we're talking just 3 outs, Kason Evans showed us enough in his freshman year that I think he'd be just a phenomenal guy to go out there and get you 3 outs if you needed 3 outs. I'm not out on Kason Evans one bit. So I would probably stick with Kason Evans, but I mean, Gavin Guidry's been up there. Devin Sheeran's been awesome through 2 outings here. Maverick Rizzi's a really good option, and then Cooper Moore is right up there as well. Those have been kind of maybe the 4 or 5 guys that have stood out to me through 4 games, and I don't think you could go wrong with any of them.
What did you like about Cooper Moore over the weekend?
Yeah, I thought he just was really dialed in with all of his pitches. I mean, the changeup that he has is absolutely nasty. That was something that we talked with him and Jay Johnson about after the game on Saturday. And just, when he has that thing in control, he's just a very hard pitcher to hit because he's also got a really nice changeup. He's got a really nice slider. He's got, pretty decent movement on the fastball as well. And just had those Milwaukee hitters really searching for answers, and they just could never really figure him out. And so just, pumping the strike zone. I believe 61 of his 76 pitches landed for strikes, and just got ahead in every single count, it felt like. And when you're a pitcher that's able to do that and have, there's several off-speed pitches that you can go to and feel comfortable with, I think he's going to be a huge, huge piece to this rotation going forward, and was certainly the highlight of the starters that we've seen to this point.
Everybody wanted to get a look at William Schmidt on Sunday. What'd you think?
I thought he was okay. I thought he bounced back well in the 4th inning after getting touched up there a little bit in the 3rd. I mean, it's just we saw the complete William Schmidt experience there, I think, in his debut. I think that's just the best way you can describe it. He struck out a lot of guys. He walked a couple. He allowed a few hard hits, and he allowed some runs. And I think just the biggest question mark with him is just that control and that command. If he's able to dial it in, if he's able to, complement that fastball with some pretty consistent breaking balls, he's going to be really tough to get figured out. But I think he's got all the talent in the world, all the potential in the world. But there's certainly some things that they're still going to have to continue to work with him on here. But I thought it was good, and Jay Johnson kind of told us this after that game, that it was good that he had some small wins in terms of adversity, and getting that 3 spot up there in the third inning to come back with a 3-up, 3-down fourth with a couple punch outs, I think was really important for him and his confidence. And now we'll see what he can build on here going forward.
Any reason to believe it won't be those 3 guys this weekend in Jacksonville?
I mean, I really love what Cooper Williams did as well. Like, he was another guy that I forgot to mention there, I guess, in that opening question. Like, I think at some point this year, Cooper Williams is going to slide into that rotation at some point and be given an opportunity to start. I don't know when that's going to happen, but he's just a really consistent left-handed arm. Another guy that just pummels the strike zone, throws a lot of strikes and lands a lot of his off-speed pitches for strikes, and so. I think at some point Cooper Williams finds his way in there. Who he's replacing, I couldn't tell you at this point, but he's somebody that if they were to make a change or were to kind of switch things up here at week 2, he'd be the one I'd want to keep an eye on.
Glen West, our guest, senior editor at Go 24/7. Let's talk a little bit about the offense, which has been really good for a lot of stretches and had a bit of a hiccup early in the game on Saturday. They figured it out late and got a couple of big hits from veterans to put that one away. But has anybody stood out to you offensively?
Yeah, there's been a couple guys. I mean, I think, for me, Zach York is a guy that, just getting a chance to now see him for 4 games just takes really disciplined at bats. A guy that's not going to get himself out very often. I think he drew 6 or 7 free passes here over the first 4 games. Had obviously a big home run yesterday and a big home run to lead off the scoring on Friday. So been very impressed with what he's done over at first base. I think Seth Dardar, the other new guy they brought in from a transfer perspective as kind of a second base / DH guy. I think he's shown you a lot of things here these first 4 games that make you believe he can be a pretty big staple there on the infield. Certainly want to see that consistency carry over here going forward, but I've really been impressed with what he's done. And then Mason Braun, the freshman, I think is another guy that had got that opening day start. We'd heard about him. We've seen him a little bit here in the preseason, has some big days, and finally got that opportunity here on Monday to kind of have his welcome to Alex Box moment. You talked to him, you talked to Jay Johnson after the game. Those 2 guys, were very much in sync about what he could potentially be in this program going forward. So I think he's going to be an excellent option for you at DH. And then I think, a lot of the guys, certainly the returners, Jake Brown did a really nice job. Obviously, he's on an absolute heater and had 4 home runs there in about a 24-hour span. Yeah. So he's just been fantastic, been the leader of the offense. But those are just a couple of guys that have stood out to me, and I think that they'll continue to earn a lot of opportunities. And I think the common theme there is they're all left-handed batters, and Jay Johnson loves left-handed batters especially when you're going to face righties. And I think you're going to see a lot of those guys here going forward. I
got a big smile out of the head coach of the LSU baseball team last night when I asked him about seven lefties in the lineup. He didn't even answer the question. He just goes, yeah, big smile. And that was all I got on that. What did you learn about Mason Braun last night in the postgame?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think he's somebody that is just ultra confident in the way that he's put in and the amount of work that he's put in. You can tell just by talking to him that he loves being here. He told us last night that this was kind of his dream school, that he was waiting on it to kind of come to fruition. And when LSU finally discovered him there, I think it was going into his junior year is what Jay Johnson said. They moved on him quick, and he flipped his commitment from Virginia Tech to LSU, and the rest is history. And I think it was very interesting because Jay Johnson's he told us last night he's not one to play the comp game very much, but when he brought up a combination of Trey Morgan, Josh Pearson, and Cade Beloso, I think a lot of our eyes kind of a lot of the eyebrows on our faces just kind of really rose when he kind of made that comparison, because he thinks Mason Braun has the potential to be kind of a combination of all those 3 guys. And I think that's a really, really high praise for the freshman. He's going to be a big-time hitter here going forward.
No question about that at this point. Just a matter of how much he plays on this team, and I guess we'll just have to see. All right, Glenn, let's shift over to hoops. They lose in Knoxville over the weekend. De'Don Thomas out for the year. Max McKinnon didn't play on Saturday. There's not a lot of good news. How do you feel they can handle things in Austin tonight?
Not great. I mean, hopefully you can get back McKinnon into the lineup. I was actually pleasantly surprised with how they played at Tennessee. They were in it for most of the game. They did a nice job of whenever Tennessee would try to kind of build up some momentum and take a lead, they do a nice job of hitting a couple big threes and just hanging around. But the last 5 minutes, they only scored 3 points. They just didn't have enough offense to close, and it was just a very predictable finish there in Knoxville. So Texas is a team that's red hot right now. They've won 4 straight. They've obviously got a coach in Sean Miller that's very adept with winning and knows how to build winning programs there. And so I think it's going to be tough, especially if they don't have McKinnon to go in there and find a way to win. But I thought that they held their own against Tennessee, but it's just at this point, I think most people are just waiting to the end of the season here and just seeing what the future holds for Matt McMahon, what the future holds for this program, and just how many of these guys you can expect back next year.
We'll see about it. Glenn, we'll talk next week. Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks, Hunt.
Glen West, senior writer over at Go 24/7, covering LSU team coverage, recruiting coverage. They got you all covered over there at Go 24/7. Baby Chevrolet GMC, Highway 61 in St. Francisville, now under new ownership as of October 1st. Brand new ownership with the Fabry family there in St. Francisville. But the Fabry family, they've been at this thing for 35 years, 3 locations, 5 brands, incredible customer service, great buying experience, and then service after the sale as well. Look, if you're looking for a truck, February is the month, and you got about 2 more weeks left. You got your Silverados on the Chevy side, up to $11,000 off MSRP or 1.9% APR financing. If you're on the GMC side with the Sierras, up to $13,000 off MSRP. That is no small chunk of change right there. Or 0% APR financing on that. They service all makes and models in the service department as well. Make that short drive to St. Francisville or check out the entire inventory. That whole inventory is online at FabryChevrolet.com. That's FabryChevrolet.com. As I mentioned, and last night after the game was over, the team has their meeting, and then we go into the meeting room for press conferences. Usually Jay Johnson comes first, and then he goes and does radio with Bill Franquez. They were a little bit late on that front, so we had Mason Braun first. Then Jay Johnson did radio. Then Jay Johnson came and talked to us. Then Gavin Gendry came in late, so it ended up being like a 45-minute press situation, which usually they're out of there in 15, 18 minutes. So it was a longer deal, and it was like 10:30 by the time I left there. But I did think, and this is not always the case, but in this case it was an enlightening conversation with Jay Johnson, with Mason Braun, and with Gavin Gendry on a number of different topics, and I'm going to get into a lot of that coming up in the second hour, because it was and sometimes you get more information than you think out of a press conference. And what we got a lot of times, that press conference is going to be about the game. What'd you see on this pitch? What was the dugout thinking at this point? What'd you see from left field here? That kind of stuff, and that can be pretty quick. This was Gavin Gendry talking about his entire recovery, and Mason Braun talking about his entire high school career trying to get to LSU. I thought it was enlightening, so I wanted to spend some time talking about that in hour number 2, and we will do a lot of that in hour number 2. We'll also touch on LSU and Texas basketball tonight as well. So plenty to do. When we come back, I believe in this segment, let me make sure that I'm correct. Yeah, I think we've got some Saints to talk about, so we'll do that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com. Jonathan Carver and his team are just awesome folks to work with. I tell you every day about their property and casualty department. They can handle your commercial insurance. No matter what it is that you do, they can handle it. But also, on the flip side of that, they do group and employee benefits. We understand if you're a business owner, you're in HR, you understand the importance of benefits in recruiting talent to your organization and maintaining talent in your organization. And if you're one of these companies that is looking at your next benefits renewal and the price tag is just getting exorbitant, it's getting untenable, you're not alone. There's a carrier in the state that's really raised rates significantly over the last 5 years, and the Howard Insurance Group has been taking calls from some disgruntled customers on that end that have moved over to Howard Insurance Group. So if you are a business that's looking for a group employee benefits renewal, or maybe a second set of eyes or a second option on that front because the price tag is going up and up and up, the Highland Insurance Group is happy to help you out with that. You can find them online at HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge, swingeasygcbr.com, swingeasygcbr.com. They're on Segan at Perkins. Get on by and play some golf this weekend. It's an awesome place to go hang out with friends. You can play Pebble Beach, play Cypress Point, play TPC Sawgrass, challenge yourself on the Island Green, or that course they play where they give out the overgarment every April. You can play that course as well. It's right there on the simulator at Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. If you don't have 5 hours to play golf or don't have a tee time at a course around town, Swing Easy is a great alternative. Get on by and see them there. Segan at Perkins. Play some golf. Hit on the driving range. Grab a bucket of beers. Watch on TV. Comfortable seating. Crank up the tunes. Bring some friends or go by yourself. Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. SwingEasyGCBR.com. All right, looking at mock drafts, it is that time of year, and there are going to be a lot that come out over the course of the next 6 weeks. And a lot of the Saints mock drafts are going to revolve around weapons on the offensive end, no question. You're going to see Jeremiah Love frequently mocked to the New Orleans Saints, and Daniel Jeremiah did that in his first mock draft. He released his second this week, and he came off that pick for New Orleans and instead went with USC wide receiver Makai Lemon. Now, in this mock draft, Jordan Tyson is available at this pick. He goes with Makai Lemon instead. Tyson falls to number 14 at this pick. Makai Lemon is not as physically tall as Jordan Tyson, and I don't think he runs quite as well, but he is a physical wide receiver. He's 5'11", 195 in terms of what he's listed at. We'll see when the combine rolls around if that's what he actually measures in at. But look, as a junior at USC this past year, 79 catches, it's a big number, 1,156 yards and 11 touchdowns, also rushed for 2 touchdowns. And one of the things that I've seen this on multiple different outlets, really like his ability to block down the field as well. PFF charted Lemon, said he ran routes from the slot almost 76% of the time at USC. Incredibly sure hands, only 4 drops on 183 targets, had 28 contested catches, made 16 of those, averaged 6.8 yards per catch. He is really good at working the short and intermediate stuff. Even though he's not Michael Thomas in terms of his frame, he's quick and he's strong and he's willing to play in tight quarters, comfortable doing that as well. I'm not here to be an expert on wide receiver group composition. He does feel a little bit like Olave. When I think about Olave, I think about winning in the intermediate. I think about a guy who's not 6'4". I think about a guy with sure hands more often than not. He's had his share of drops, absolutely. But once Shuck took over and there was a little bit more rhythm to the way things were going, I think the drops kind of went away to an extent. But he's a guy that plays some in the slot, wins in the intermediate, not overly tall. Like, it kind of feels like another option there. And so I look at that one of two ways. I look at it and go, you're kind of getting close to the same guy here, or you're getting a second option that teams have to deal with that kind of can do the same thing. So how can you take away both of them? I think as I look at this, I probably prefer Tyson. I probably prefer the variety. That's what I feel like at this point without really diving into the weeds on it. But I do see benefit in getting another guy that plays similarly so that you can do that on both sides of the field, right? You look at maybe Polk is the more physical and taller wide receiver for this team. Certainly Devon Vele is taller and has that kind of presence to him. So maybe you don't need Jordan Tyson. I can really be convinced into all of these things, which is to say, as long as you get a really talented wide receiver or running back in this spot, I think it's tough to completely disagree with. I understand the rationale between hating drafted running back 9th or 8th. I get it. I fully do. But I understand the rationale in doing it as well. And I fully understand the rationale of saying, hey, this is kind of a similar wide receiver to what you already have in Olave. But how much do you trust Polk and how much do you trust Vele and how much do you want to veer away from that kind of guy because you already have it? It's there are options here, and I don't think any of them are wrong. I heard Nick Underhill on the morning show today say something interesting, that when the Saints draft best player available, it usually goes pretty well. When the Saints feel like they're pigeonholed into one spot, oh my gosh, we have to get a tackle at this spot. We have to get Trevor Penning. He's the only guy left. That's where you end up making trouble. And so for the Saints, because they have so many available spots on their roster, so many quote-unquote holes to fill, as long as you fill one hole with a really good player, I'm not as concerned with which one it is. Mekhi Lemon is an incredibly productive receiver at USC. I can get on board with that. I think right now I would lead Jordan Tyson, but I'm okay with that. And if these are the two guys at wide receiver that they're really targeting, I think that's good. If you go offensive line again for the 915th time in a row, I might complain a little bit. But at this case, I think that Mekhi Lemon does make some sense. In this mock draft, Jeremiah Love, beg your pardon, another good Jeremiah. Jeremiah Love goes to the Rams at number 13 in this pick. Saints in front of that. Maybe he's there for them if they want to make that pick. Jordan, what you think?
I think, like I said, best player available. If they do go Lemon, that just means that they are fully bought in with Vele as being that big guy. And so that means they're just bought in that he's the guy. And it does mean that I see I see Lemon more of a threat, like you said, compared to Olave, like two, both of them going hand to hand. So it'd be cool. Best player available for sure for me.
See what they can do. Missed any of hour number 1, including LSU baseball talk, our chat with Glen West, and LSU football with Jake Olsen. You can catch it all on demand at Hunt Palmer Show, wherever you find your sound. Certainly, you can find it all at Hunt on LSU and Hunt on Saints as well. Got a lot of LSU baseball in hour number 2. We're going to talk some LSU basketball as well, but a lot of LSU talk coming at you after Sports Center. Hope everybody's having a happy and very safe Mardi Gras day. We're going to pause for national headlines and Sports Center. Come back with a full hour number 2 on this Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Gotros Outdoor Power. Gotros Outdoor Power. 2 locations here in the Baton Rouge area, I guess would be more properly put. They're on Airline Highway in Baton Rouge, and then certainly you can find them in their location in Gonzales. If you're looking for a zero-turn mower, you understand that it's time to get that done because the grass is about to start growing. You can see those clovers start to pop up. What if I told you that the folks at Gotros Outdoor Power can get you behind the wheel of a brand new zero-turn mower for under $100 a month? Like, think about what you pay to have your grass cut every 2 weeks. Why don't you just do it with one of the largest selections in the state? When you're talking about Hustler, they got them all right there. So go check them out. On Airline Highway, got a massive inventory right now. Or go see them in Gonzales as well. They're open today. It's Gotros Outdoor Power. Gotros Outdoor Power.